Number 9. Robert Benjamin Smith. In November of 1966, Robert Benjamin Smith, aged 18, entered the Rosemar College of Beauty in Mesa, Arizona. Smith was obsessed with famous leaders including Hitler, Caesar, and Napoleon. He was desperate for fame and recognition after seeing the amount of media coverage that 2 other US shootings had that year. He ordered everyone inside the college to get on the floor, but one woman was able to run to a store nearby and alert the police. Smith proceeded to kill 4 women, as well as a small child. He didn't know any of his victims. He had planned the killing spree for over 3 months. Smith was eventually apprehended and arrested, and showed no remorse for what he'd done. He even claimed that he had planned to kill 40 people so that he could make a name for himself. According to Smith, no one had ever paid attention to him, and he wanted to change that. Originally, Smith received the death sentence, but after a Supreme Court ruling on the death penalty, his sentence was later commuted to life in prison. Number 8. The murders of the Flores Gonzalez household. On May the 30th of 2009, Gina Gonzalez, along with her husband, Raul Jr. Flores, and their daughter, Brisenia, were sleeping soundly in their home. There was a knock at the door, to which Flores answered. Standing at the door were a woman and 2 men. They claimed to be law enforcement and said that they needed to search the house for illegal immigrants. Flores asked why they were there, but he was shot dead by one of the men. Gina and Brisenia were then also shot, with only Gina surviving her bullet wound. She played dead until the killers left and afterwards called 911. The group then returned, finding her on the phone. Gina was able to grab a gun and fire it towards the group, causing them to flee the scene. It was later claimed that the group was attempting to raise money for an anti-immigrant organization, and they suspected the family were drug smugglers. Shauna Ford, the mastermind behind the attack, orchestrated much of the organization's efforts. Upon their conviction, Ford was sentenced to death for the murders, whilst her accomplices received 2 life sentences and death. Number 7. Dwight Lamont Jones. Dwight Lamont Jones was a mentally ill man suffering from personality disorders and paranoia. He was bitter about his 2010 divorce from Connie Jones, to whom he'd been married for 20 years. 8 years after the divorce, in 2018, he began a killing spree, targeting everyone that had been involved. The murder started on the 31st of May with the forensic psychiatrist who had diagnosed his mental illness and testified against him in court. Jones then went after his ex-wife's lawyer, but ended up murdering 2 paralegals. 2 days later, Marshall, a 72-year-old life coach and hypnotherapist, was also killed. His actual target was a doctor in the same practice, but Jones discovered the doctor had moved to another office and chose to kill the therapist instead. Connie Jones and her new partner, a retired police officer called Richard Anglin, saw the killings reported in the media and immediately made the connection to Dwight Jones. They informed the police of their suspicion, and a manhunt was immediately launched. While this was happening, Jones killed an elderly couple he used to play tennis with, Byron Thomas and Mary Simmons, both in their early 70s. The police tracked Jones down to a hotel in anticipation of a potential shootout. It was there that they discovered he'd taken his own life. Number 6. Jason Derrick Brown. Jason Derrick Brown, an FBI top 10 most wanted fugitive, was known as an arrogant playboy with a taste for expensive toys and lavish parties. In November of 2004, he murdered armored car guard Robert Palomares in a movie theater heist. Palomares was shot 5 times, with one of the bullets fatally penetrating his brain. Brown made off on a bicycle with over $50,000 in cash. Fingerprints found at the scene later revealed Brown as the main suspect, as he'd bought a .45 caliber pistol earlier that year and had his fingerprints taken while doing so. Police believe that Brown escaped Arizona in his BMW and that his brother may have helped him to do so. He faces charges of first-degree murder and armed robbery and has so far evaded arrest. The FBI has offered a $200,000 reward for information leading to his capture. Number 5. Gary Triana and Pam Phillips. Gary Triana and Pam Phillips formed a well-presented couple in Tucson, Arizona. Both regarded as members of high society, they often mingled with the likes of Donald Trump and his wife at the time. Triana and Phillips had married in 1986 and had 2 children together. Their life together seemed perfect. The marriage, however, came under pressure 7 years later, when Triana's gambling debts began to threaten the financial stability of the family. It eventually led to their divorce in 1993. 13 years later, in November of 2006, Triana was getting into his car after playing golf with a friend when a pipe bomb exploded, killing him. Triana was known to do business with members of organized crime, so many thought it had been a contract assassination. But investigators found the bomb to be poorly constructed and ruled out mafia involvement. A few weeks after Triana's death, Pam Phillips came out of the shadows to claim his life insurance policy, which stood at $2 million. This prompted an investigation into Phillips. After looking into previous financial records, law enforcement found that over time, Phillips had paid $40,000 to her new partner, Ronald Young. Investigators then started searching abandoned vehicles, eventually coming by one that had previously been rented by Young. Inside the vehicle, investigators found extensive information related to Triana, such as lists of his known associates, maps, receipts from hotels Triana had stayed at, as well as documents related to Phillips and Triana's divorce. It was enough evidence to charge both Young and Phillips for Triana's murder. The woman's plan had reportedly been set in motion for more than a decade. She and her partner were found guilty and imprisoned. Number 4. Business dispute kills family. Driss Dyer Edin was the middle brother between his senior brother Dodi and his younger brother Reda. They worked together, operating their own limousine business in Phoenix. Acquaintances described the brothers as hard workers. Driss, however, was known to have a temper. On Friday, April the 17th of 2015, the extent of his instability came to light in a horrific way. Acquaintances of the family said that the brothers were having an ongoing business dispute, which eventually sent Driss into a rage. He acquired a semi-automatic handgun and shot both of his brothers, one of their wives, and his own mother. Driss's wife, his 2 children, and his sister managed to escape the massacre. Authorities were alerted to the gunfire, and Driss then turned the weapon on himself. Police arrived at the house prepared for a shootout and used a megaphone to attempt communication with those inside. When officers eventually moved in to assess the situation, they found nothing but a slain family. Number 3. William Craig Miller. William Craig Miller was involved in an arson for hire case, burning down his own house in Scottsdale so that he could claim insurance. Miller owned a home restoration company and enlisted the assistance of his employee, Stephen Duffy, in the arson plot. Weeks later, Duffy's girlfriend contacted the authorities, telling them what Miller and Duffy had done. The latter agreed to cooperate with law enforcement as they investigated Miller. Both Duffy and his girlfriend were set to testify against him. This enraged Miller, and he went on a killing spree to eliminate those working against him in the arson and fraud case. Miller shot Duffy and his girlfriend dead, as well as 3 other family members in their Mesa home. Miller escaped the house where he'd executed his victims before the authorities arrived to reports of gunshots. 1 week later, he staged and reported a burglary at his own house. It was an attempt to mislead the police into thinking that whoever had killed Duffy's family was after him too. It failed, however, when investigators retrieved items at the house which linked Miller to the murders. During the trial, 4 men came forward testifying that Miller had attempted to enlist each of them as assassins. When that failed, Miller took it upon himself to kill the family. He was convicted of first-degree murder in all cases and sentenced to death a month later. Today's topic was requested by Kevin King and Jay. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. The Yarnell Hill Fire. The Yarnell Hill Fire was a devastating natural disaster that ripped through 8,400 acres of land in 2011. Started by lightning, the fire spread rapidly due to a drought that the area was experiencing. Another factor which further increased its power and intensity were natural air temperatures of up to 101 degrees Fahrenheit. At one point, 600 firefighters were deployed in the battle against the blaze. The town of Yarnell was evacuated as a precaution. The fire caused widespread destruction, but the deadliest incident that emerged from it was the death of 19 firefighters, part of a 20-man crew, known as the Granite Mountain Hotshots. Brendan McDonough, a lookout for the team, was the sole survivor, having been told by the second-in-command to abandon his post and evacuate. The fire, which was already erratic due to rapidly changing wind conditions, had reportedly trapped the firefighters and obstructed their situational awareness. The Hotshots put down fire shelters in an attempt to shield themselves from the heat. But it wasn't enough. Where the firefighters perished, the wildfire had soared to over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. After the conflagration was contained and the bodies were recovered, the state of Arizona mourned, flying flags at half-mast in honor of the firefighters, who had also been the only casualties. Barack Obama, who was president at the time, publicly praised their heroic sacrifices. Number 1. Buddhist temple murders. Considered the worst massacre in Arizona's recent history, the Wattle Buddhist temple shooting took place on August 9th of 1991, near Phoenix. On that day, 17-year-old Jonathan Duty and his accomplice, 16-year-old Alessandro Garcia, entered a Buddhist temple armed with guns. They robbed the monks inside of roughly $2,600. According to Garcia, Duty then panicked, thinking one of the monks might have recognized him. Duty then, in an execution-like manner, proceeded to shoot all 9 occupants of the temple in the head. Garcia later stated that it had always been the plan not to leave any witnesses behind. Both Duty and Garcia were charged with armed robbery and first-degree murder. They were convicted 3 years after the massacre, and both received several life sentences for their crimes. Thanks for watching. Be sure to click on one of the links on your screen for more videos.